what happened since is that there were a series of people who made FOIA requests. FOIA is a Freedom of Information Act request to the federal government, trying to figure out what happened. Like what were Tony Fauci and Francis Collins, who's the head of the NIH, saying around the time when they saw the Great Barrington Declaration. So it turns out there was an email from Francis Collins to Tony Fauci 4 days after we wrote the Great Barrington Declaration, literally 4 days. In it, he wrote that there were 3 fringe epidemiologists, me, Sunetra Gupta, who's probably the world's best epidemiologist at Oxford University, and Martin Kulldorff, who's then a biostatistician at Harvard University and an epidemiologist, who designed the vaccine safety surveillance systems that would play a big part in that for the FDA. He called us fringe epidemiologists, and I think I'm gonna put it on my business card someday.
Your Twitter bio, right? Fringe epidemiologist.
I think I should put that on there. He also called for a devastating published takedown of the premises. 4 days. He didn't contact me. He didn't want to talk with me. He just called, asked, and Tony Fauci responded with a link to a Wired magazine article that was published around that time, completely misunderstanding the proposal. What I think what happened was that they viewed, Tony Fauci and Francis Collins viewed the Great Barrington Declaration as a threat to the idea that there was a consensus in favor of lockdown, a scientific consensus in favor of lockdown. When you have 3 people from places like Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford saying, look, the lockdowns are a grave mistake, I mean, you kind of need to take it seriously. But they didn't take that seriously. Instead, they sought to destroy us, destroy the idea, put us on the fringe. And they used the media, their links to the media and to big tech to try to attempt to censor us, deplatform us, and it was something else to go through. It was a very stressful time for me. But I think the key thing is to understand why it matters for policy more broadly than for me is that you cannot have government scientists, essentially government bureaucrats, falsely claiming a scientific consensus that does not exist. Tens of thousands of scientists signed the Great Barrington Declaration. Tens of thousands of doctors signed the Great Barrington Declaration. Almost 1 million people have signed it. It's very far from the lockdowns were then and now very far from a consensus. And it was it was an attempt to create this false sense of consensus, to use the enormous power they have over the minds of scientists and also the media and the big tech in order to create this illusion of consensus.